Hi.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Bonjour la famille, bonjour les amis. I'm very happy to host this LLL session. Welcome to all of you on the Zoom session, on Facebook, all around the world. We have like a really fantastic and beautiful panel here. And my name is Joëlle Sambinzeba. I am the co-chair of ELC, Euro Central Asian Lesbian Community. And we've been having this conversation since the beginning, like 3 months now, more or less, the beginning of the lockdown, hosting some badass lesbian, fabulous women to talk about their life, talk about the struggle, the strategies, how we fight, how we do things. And we're gonna have that conversation this afternoon for like an hour and a half. I'm very, very happy to welcome all of you. And there is a Zoom session, there is a Facebook Live. If you have any question, feel free to type it on the Zoom or on live. Our fantastic tech, Silvia Casalino, is taking care of everything. She's behind the scene, but everything is rolling because she's there also. Thank you very much. Yes, let's start. I will just, this is a cool conversation, and we're gonna be like chill, at ease, and ask each other very different questions, trying to know about each other. And for a start, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself, and I will ask with the Flavia Randos here from the US. Flavia, would like to introduce yourself and also maybe add a small question. How do you feel, and what's your small and quick analysis about like the last events, the murder of George Floyd, but also all the protests that uprised everywhere around the world? Maybe you want to unmute yourself first. Yep. Nope.
Oh, didn't work. Yep. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Flavia Rando. I'm here in New York, and I'm very happy to join you. A little bit about myself. I've been a lesbian activist for 51 years. I was part of the Gay Liberation Front that organized the first march in New York City in 1970. I joined in July of '69 after Stonewall. I had always looked for an activist group and could never find one. And the minute I heard that there was a group organizing to continue the work of the Stonewall uprising, I said, and I remember my words, I have been waiting for this all my life. And that's really, I had been out almost a decade before that. I then joined Radicalesbians, which was one of the many groups that came out of the Gay Liberation Front, which basically was an umbrella group. Anyone who walked in the door was a member. Anyone who walked in the door could speak. And I think that's so important in activist work, that everyone has a voice. And it's really this work that has given me my voice. Currently, I'm a coordinator of the Lesbian Herstory Archives. We are celebrating our 46th year. We are the largest and oldest, clearly, archives of work by and about lesbians in the world, and I'm quite nervous.
Let's go. Me too.
Yeah. And why I love the archives, and I think this is important, is that we still adhere to the principles and ideals of the early movement. Everyone has a voice. Everyone is included. You don't have to be famous to have your work there. And if you are famous, that's nice, you know, but no one is paid. It's completely volunteer. I've been teaching a course, Lesbian Lives, for the past 10 years as part of the Lesbian Institute that I founded there. We do exhibits, we do talks, we sort of never shut up. But as far as George Floyd, I think of Breonna Taylor, who was murdered casually in her bed in Louisville, Kentucky, a short while ago. And there are so many names to call here in the US. And unless the people stand up as they have been, those names will not be called. Every one of those murders is hidden as or lied about. I think that it has been a glorious moment, the response, clearly. I myself, as you know, New York is kind of the epicenter of COVID here. And my health is not exactly what I wish it was. But I've followed everything as best I can.
Thank you. Thank you, Flavia. We'll get back to that. You said a lot of different things, the Lesbian Institute, radical lesbians. So we have like lots of questions for you. Next person, Nyiragasigswa Hens. So Nira, you are in Antwerp, Belgium. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about how you've been feeling these last days and week?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in Antwerp, and I'm organizing a Pride of Color, the first Pride of Color in Antwerp. And it's an event in August during the Antwerp Pride. And we organized it because there was a lack of events for people of color, because the normal Pride is really wide, manly, and these men are like 50 plus. So it's the first time we organize it. Now this year is the second time. And we're still looking and searching for how to organize, what do we, what kind of, second time? Excuse me? Oh, someone's...
Yeah, sorry, someone just entered the room and yeah, I'm sorry.
So yeah, we're still searching for how to organize it, and what kind of people we what kind of people
join or would like to.
Yes. And these past days and weeks were very strange for me, because I was adopted. I am adopted, and I'm always between those two worlds, like the white one and the black one. So it was very emotional also for my family, but even for my family in Rwanda and my family here in Belgium. But it made my relationship and the emotional and the psychology struggles we had before, it turned around, because we can talk about subjects now that we never did for more than 30 years. So, but it was a roller coaster.
Okay. Thank you, Nira. We'll get back to that.
Okay.
Yes, Zana.
Good day, maybe good morning and good evening. So for everybody, thank you for inviting me for that session. My name is Jannar. I'm from Kazakhstan, and I'm from Kazakhstan Feminist Initiative, Feminita. We work with LGBTQ women in Kazakhstan, and we also face sometimes police violence and other issues. And yeah, today I will listen to you more, maybe because we don't actually have any strategy how to deal with that kind of violence yet. But of course, we always face it at the street, or they come to the home and try to threaten feminists not to come to the, march of 8th of March, for example, or just not to come to any big official events. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zana. Celia Wutangu from the collective Bledarte. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, hello. Yeah, also thank you for the invitation, and I'm really already impressed to meet all of you. Beautiful, impressive women. I'm 33 now, and I'm the oldest of a young collective called Bledarte. We are POC women, and we call ourselves a feminist decolonial collective. We started with a festival. The first event that we did was the biggest, actually, and we really wanted to bring together art, music, and also yeah, from the beginning we really want to also build spaces for POC to talk about specific subjects, and we from the beginning really had a focus on the police brutality. And since that, yes, we are always going more or less around this topic, and also the negrophobia in the Maghreb community. And yeah, for the question, this last week was very tough, of course. Also because in Belgium, we like I think everywhere in the world actually, because of the pandemic, police brutality has been even tougher or more tough than usual. And a young man called Adil has been killed by the police not 2 months ago, and in a suburb in Brussels. And it's also, yeah, it's a lot of feelings, anger, and also a lot of work, like to try to manage those feelings and really do work around those injustices.
Thank you, Celia. The next one is Pierrette Piram from Lesbian and Gender. Yeah, you have to unmute your... Tu dois appuyer sur le micro pour pouvoir parler à nouveau. Je ne sais pas si je peux le faire pour toi. Ça, c'est les joies du direct.
Là, vous m'entendez?
Ah, voilà.
Oui.
Ah.
Bonjour. Je me présente, je m'appelle Pierrette Piram. Je suis de Paris.
My name is Pierrette, I will translate. My name is Pierrette Piram, I'm from Paris.
Oui, je suis une lesbienne noire qui a créé, il y a 2 ans maintenant, une association lesbienne afro-caribéenne pour mettre en avant...
I am a Black lesbian, and a few years ago I have created a lesbian association afro-caribéenne.
Pour rendre la visibilité aux lesbiennes noires. Et à travers l'association, on organise des conférences, des soirées, des événements réunissant la communauté LGBTQI+, à découvrir la culture afro-caribéenne.
So we are working to give more visibility to Black lesbians, and with our association, we are organizing any kind of different cultural and political events and community events to unify the Afro-Caribbean community here in France.
Nous sommes également des militantes de la lutte antiraciste, de la lutte contre le sexisme et contre le validisme.
And we are also activists and political activists for the anti-racist movement, political movement, for the ableism. I don't know what is exactly the word in English.
Yeah.
And here in France.
Nous sommes auprès des familles des victimes des violences policières également, et nous les soutenons à travers nos mobilisations auprès d'eux.
And we support the families victims of police violence, and we are trying to work with them to ease a little bit the situation.
Voilà, nous sommes très contentes de participer à cette réunion et je vous souhaite une bonne réunion à toutes.
And we are very happy to participate to this meeting, and very good meeting to everybody.
Merci, merci Pierrette. Thank you, Pierrette. And last but not least, Lepa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Lepa Mlađenović in Belgrade. I started as a lesbian activist in the country Yugoslavia because in meantime there was a war in the region where I live, and so now I live in the country that's called Serbia. And I'm a radical feminist activist and a lesbian activist from '87. I just I want to say that when the war started in '91, really my life as an anti-war activist as well, my life started with police. So there I was on one side and the police was on the other side, because we had anti-war marches, then we had anti-regime marches, because the regime of Serbia, the country where I come, in '91 started the war and carried out the war in the region, and therefore we were having at some point daily protests against regime, and there was non-stop police. So practically all my activist life I have police on somewhere in my different identities, and especially as a lesbian. And now I'm active in a small group counseling for lesbians. And also I want to say when this incredible protest started, my first association was also that here in Serbia, there is practically no movement against racism against Roma people, because we have the biggest issue here with Roma people, and officially they are seen as a social problem. So practically, it's not even named that this country has racism as an issue, and so that's our huge issue. And there are a Roma women's group that are trying to do a whole network, trying to do something about this enormous hatred, oppression, and discrimination. So that was my impulse to see what can we do here, initiated by really incredible, and I'm following all the different protests, anti-racist protests in USA. I'm really happy, and around the world, that this has such a big, and that I can know, because there are all these social media. I can know what's going on.
Sure. Thank you, Lepa.
I'm happy that we are here. Thank you. Great.
Thank you. I'll try to play, like, to make sure that we all have enough time to speak. We'll get back to that, and the anti-war movement that you were talking about, and also the strategy. Thank you for your answer. So I will say let's go back to Flavia to have a conversation. I'm just like keeping an eye on the time to make sure that we all have enough time to talk. Yeah, Flavia, I wanted to ask you a question, because when we started preparing this conversation, I really wanted to have an historical perspective. And so my question to you will be, can you tell us a little bit about Stonewall. How do you end up there? What was your implication? How do you end up in Stonewall? What was your implication in all the protests and everything that went there?
Well, I was not at Stonewall. I only learned about it when I read a small article, you know, like 1 inch in the newspaper, and I lived across town. But immediately I walked over, and the fires that the protesters had lit were still smoking. The street was deserted, and it felt like the beginning, maybe the end of something, you know, extremely oppressive for all queer people. About a week or two later, as I said in my intro, I met a friend on the bus, and she said they were organizing. So I went to the meeting of the Gay Liberation Front, which was the first organization after Stonewall. And from the minute I walked in the room, because I had tried other groups, but how to put it, people were very frightened, and that made them rather conservative. So they were afraid, you know, it was the time of, we're just like you, except for this little difference. And, you know, you being this amorphous, you know, white identified, straight identified group out there in the world. And that I just didn't work with that group. I mean, I had left home. I was living on a shoestring, to put it, you know, generously. And I didn't understand why anybody would want to support a government and a social structure that oppressed so many people. I simply couldn't get that. Why would I want to be that way? And so when I walked into the Gay Liberation Front, which this is a very small group, and there's me with the hair right there and in the front, and next to a friend who has on the Lavender Menace t-shirt. And when I walked into the group, I saw that the people there did not want to be like everyone else, that a lot of them were activists from the civil rights movement, from the peace movement. A lot of them were young people, I wasn't the youngest by any means. We were all young, but many of them were young people who lived on the streets because their families had discarded them. There were trans people. There were people from every ethnicity and class and race. And I thought, this is going to be good. This is going to be better. I felt like we were all people who had really nothing left to lose. And that was so important because everyone, you know, the gay, lesbian people I had met were trying to hold on to whatever privilege they had, whatever status they had. This is a photograph of the Lavender Menace takeover of the National Organization for Women, which was a feminist, a very kind of conventional feminist organization at that time, and very homophobic. And this was a group from radical lesbians. And I think that I wanted to just read to you from that, the manifesto, Woman Identified Woman, just the first line. What is a lesbian? A lesbian is the rage of all women condensed to the point of explosion. And I just think that, you know, we embrace, and we must embrace, our anger, which in many years of teaching, I found is very hard for so many of us. So this really transformed the National Organization for Women as much as it could possibly be transformed. Okay. Shall I go on? Or
yeah, I wanted to ask you specifically because, as you were saying, there was a lot of prejudice, there was a lot of discrimination as a lesbian and gay and trans. And I wanted to ask you, what was your how do you build finally your activism? Since you have how were you coping with the police and the authorities? How were what was the strategy that you were putting in place?
We did not then, you mean then we did not have a strategy. We had been used to the only place we could meet outside of our homes, which many people would not do. That's how afraid people were. The only place we could meet was in the bars, and the police and the organized crime that ran the bars were, you know, locked together. They came into the bars. The very first time as an 18-year-old, I think, when I tried to go to the bar, I was stopped at the door, and I was said, the cops raided yesterday, and only women in skirts can come in here. And it was said to me by this guy who obviously was armed and was there to keep us in line. So that kind of violence, I was stoned on the streets, and you know, I think that we didn't really have a strategy. What protected us in the for a little while, like for a little while, what protected us was that the cops were shocked. They couldn't believe we were standing up. They couldn't take us seriously. Then they began pulling out, and I think that protected us. I think the other thing, our strategy was we have nothing left to lose. We can't live this way anymore. We just can't. The daily humiliation when you left your apartment was severe. And that was how they tried to do it, through humiliation. You know, we know who you are and you're not worth anything, that kind of thing. But as we began to demonstrate, even before the first march, we demonstrated in the village, in places where queer people hung out, and they started pulling people out. And we would demonstrate in front of the precinct trying to get them back, the police precinct. I would say that at the beginning, we saw the organized crime and the cops as equal oppressors. When I and another friend went into a bar to leaflet about radical lesbians, a lesbian bar, the owner, the front, she was not really the owner, the owner came up with two guys behind her and said, if you don't get out of here now, you're not going to be able to get out of here. You know, so we were that was the way it went. Mm-hmm. I think that those of us who were feminine presenting were a little protected because the cops really just couldn't quite go there yet. But when you were in the bar, if they found you and they wanted you, you know, you had to prove you had on 3 items of women's clothing. How did they know whether you had 3 items of women's clothing? So there was a tremendous amount of sexual abuse and harassment. And because we were made to be so ashamed of who we were, we had very little defense against it. Besides the fact that, you know, you have very little defense against a gun, no matter what you do. In a certain, I mean, those of us. Mm-hmm. So there were people who were killed. One young man of color die trying to escape the police. He was in custody and he jumped and he was caught on a fence. So I think then, as now, people, especially young men of color, were singled out, and we fought against that. We allied ourselves with the Black Panthers. We, and had a lot of discussions and meetings, and that's how it went. Mm-hmm. And now I can talk about the Dyke March now, and there is a lot. We marched without a permit. I think I've sort of lost track of the number, 35, 27, I can't remember. But deep in my heart, I've always wondered, but there's a lot of negotiation with the cops at the beginning to let us down the street. And deep in my heart, I've always wondered, what that negotiation would look like. I mean, the march has many dykes of color, but it also has many white dykes. So I wonder what that negotiation would have looked like.
Mm-hmm. But were you having a conversation, actually? When we were preparing this conversation, we end up talking about community. And this will be my last question, and you have like 2 minutes to answer.
Okay.
But we were talking about communities, and today there's a lot of POC group, lesbian of color, different group. Lepa was also talking about the Roma women in Serbia. We organize in community. We try to talk to each other. And when we prepared, I was asking you about how was the community back then? Did you talk to each other? Was it like, how did you do it?
Well, I think that you mean in the Gay Liberation Front and Radical Lesbians. Well, we talked, we yelled at each other. There was a lot of really heated discussion. The best Gay Liberation Front moment was when we decided we didn't know each other well enough. And we didn't know each other well enough, of course, activism, color, trans or lesbian, our experience. So we decided we were going to spend the whole weekend just finding people to talk to individually. And I was sitting outside with this young man who lived on the street and who was a man of color. And we talked outside until it became so dark, literally we couldn't see each other anymore because of the darkness. And I thought this is what has to happen. And this is what, for me, as you can see, I can keep talking. This is really wonderful. This is really such a critical part of this work.
Thank you, Flavia. We could have gone on and on and on, I'm sure, but we will, something that I didn't mention in the beginning is that this is like the first part of a two-time conversation. So we will have another moment and continue this conversation next time. Thank you very much, Flavia.
Thank you.
So let's continue with Nira. How do I talk about Nyiragasigswa from Antwerp? And yes, when we prepared this meeting, this conversation, we talked quite a long time about things that were happening to our friends, our lesbian friends, our gay friends in Antwerp, in Belgium in general, because we are in this moment of like protest, etc. And I wanted to ask you, I asked you about like, what do you think is necessary before putting together strategy? What do you need before that? Because you were talking to me about community, etc., etc. So what is it for you that we need to do before starting to?
For me, what is very important is to organize and that everybody has a structure, that organizations has their own structure. This is the logo of Pride of Color. But also very important for me and is healing, that you can come together and there is a place, there is a moment, there are people where you can heal and also organized. But it's also very important to celebrate. And these are for me the three things you need to have to not get exhausted, to not get totally tired of the activism also, because we need also celebration and we need some healing, but we need also some strength to fight. But this strength has to be, it needs a catalysator.
Is that those three moments that, like when you say like organize, healing, and celebrate, what was that the three point that you thought about when you started POC? How did you start it? It's just like, okay, I mean, we need something for people of color. You start talking about that before, but can you elaborate on that a bit so we know more about you and your work on with the Pride of Color?
Okay. Why I started Pride of Color is more because I couldn't. I came from a little town in Belgium, and that town was there were no people of color. And when I became when I was in my 15, 16, there were no lesbians. There were lesbians, but there were no lesbians of color. So when I was 20, I was really searching, I was really looking for places where I could relate to and where I could find people who I could identify myself with. And they were not there. Then I came to Antwerp. And I think this is the beginning why I organized Pride of Color, to identify myself, to see someone who looks like me, who is LGBT, and that is, I think, the main reason. So there is also some kind of organization, like you have to organize with the people with the minds. You know, and the same minds maybe and different minds, but you need some identification.
Yeah, sure.
And what I really miss now here in Antwerp is we are not organized. For example, the manifestation a few days ago, I think in the Netherlands it's better organized because it was really fast. They could react really fast. It was, I think, in 2 days they had a manifestation, and it was ready. People were there. It was, I think, some phone calls, some emails, and they were ready. And here in Belgium, everybody is on their own island, and it's very frustrating that you really have to look very far. It takes time, it takes energy, and we don't have any platform where everybody is organized, everybody is
yeah, like a structure that like a platform that
yes, we don't have that. And I really miss that.
Yeah, when we were discussing, actually, I was surprised because I asked you, I said, but don't you have like the Rainbow House? Because in Brussels, you remember, I said that we have the Rainbow House, and said, yeah, we have Rozenhuis, which is already, it's like called differently, and we were discussing about the yeah, especially about the protest. And as you say, that in the Netherlands, it's 2 days and they organize it, and that was it. And even if, so people were able to talk to each other directly, and that's something that's missed here. But don't you think that that also has to do with how how our country is, because we have like Brussels and then.
Yes, we've got a language thing, but I don't think I don't think that's the problem. Always unorganized. So Belgium is really has the character to be like that. But it doesn't matter. Actually, we can do it together, and we know actually everybody knows each other, but nobody takes the lead to say, okay, let's organize and make this a platform, and when you call this number, you can go there. Because a friend of mine was arrested, for example, a few months ago, just before the corona. And she was arrested, and they were very homophobic, the police. They put what, how you call this? They
torn, I don't know, yeah, like
clothes,
people understand, they just like, yeah.
and there was nobody she could call. There was nobody she could ask to pick her up, like these kind of things. And if you organize, these things are possible. To be there, to stand there. And what Flavia also said is like, what I also miss here is everybody should have a voice. Everybody who comes in should have a voice. And what you have here in Belgium, it's also some people who they are speaking, but there are a lot of voices you don't hear because they don't get the microphone. They don't get it, and that's a pity. Yeah.
So do you think that like organizing the Pride of Color, or maybe it's not via the Pride of Color, is it a way to actually get that voice? Because maybe if we wait to get the microphone, no one will give it to us. I mean, I'm just asking. So what do you think, that we should just grab the microphone, build one of our own, or how is it?
Actually, I'm talking about a microphone in our own community, actually. And the people of color, I do it to try to organize because it's the first time we do it, but also to give people a voice if they want to talk, but also to celebrate. So it's everything in one. But I have also another organization, BeHuman.
Yeah.
And BeHuman is actually the organization of the foundation that does people of color. But with BeHuman, I'm trying also making theater to give people a voice. That's the main thing, to give people a voice and to tell their stories. It doesn't matter what kind of story it is, in dance, in theater, in music. They can choose any medium they want. But that's what I miss also in my own community, to give everybody a voice. I really, really, really miss that.
Yeah, and so if I understand correctly, like BeHuman is the structure that organize on the Pride of Color. Okay, and I was wondering, how is it? Because yeah, we talk about the tactic to fight against police violence, but of course it's police and authorities, and so I was wondering, how is it for BeHuman or for POC? Like, what are how do you work with the police? What are I remember when I went there the first time, about the last summer, right? And we were in this beautiful place, like with all colors and lights and everything. And there was these two person walking, and they looked like police. They had like this blue shirt, and I can see like the person I was with was like, okay, what are you doing here? And then the police was like holding a rainbow kind of flag or things like that. So I was like, okay, so they sort of discussed, but nothing very harsh. And then the guy just and so I wonder, what is the relation that you have? How do you how do you work together or not, actually? Because that's also a position, maybe, to decide not to work with the police. Or
we don't work with the police, and actually in this state of in this state, I prefer not to work with them, because it's not it's very how you call it, it's on a sitter, it's an old fabric, so you enter the door and then it's actually closed. So we see everybody who enters, and we didn't need any police. so we don't work with them.
So yeah, you said it all. I wanted to ask you what about the strategies and actually no, I wanted to ask when are we gonna have the next POC? Because there's a lockdown, but
yes, the next one is the 7th of August, 8 and 9, and everybody is welcome. And Pride of Color is more for us like Pride of Color, like also to celebrate color. And it's not only for people of color, it is let's celebrate the color and also everybody can enter. But all the topics are made by for people of color, but the people who enter, everybody can come.
thank you very much, Niha. Thank you for sharing this with us. And yes, I'm just looking at the time. We're good.
Thank you.
If you want to add something afterward, or feel free, and then we're gonna put the link also on the chat afterward. Thank you for that very much. And now let's continue our conversation with Zana Zekarbayeva. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
Yes. So yes, thank you, Zana, for joining us for this conversation. And my first question is that we don't know much about the Kazakhstan and the country around and in the region. And my first question was how does lesbophobia and racism and also negrophobia maybe appear or manifest itself over there in Kazakhstan, and how do you with the Feminita, how do you work around those topics?
Okay, so yes, of course, the region of Central Asia itself is a region when sometimes people, I mean, academics and also activists and other people connect more to the, to the Asia, to the South Asia. But because post-Soviet countries, which are exactly Central Asian countries, we were under the USSR regime, and we had these colonial regimes, and we speak Russian. So the one big common, how to say, characteristics that maybe unite us to other post-Soviet countries like Russia or Ukraine is that we speak common language. And actually we share somehow some common patterns, because when you speak in same language, you also somehow connected in mentality. So that is why when we speak about Central Asia, it's always not very clear. Is it like a region that close to the Europe or to the Russia, or maybe it's very close to, to our neighbors like China, South Korea, and so on. So, but how we identify ourselves, we try to say that actually we are very connected to countries that use Russian language, because we also in Kazakhstan, it's our second, it's actually state language. So we speak both Kazakh and Russian. And that is why our activism also is implemented in Russian and in Kazakh, for example. And unfortunately, even in Kazakh, it's not very sufficient information, not enough maybe activities that could be done in Kazakh language. So sometimes people who speak only Kazakh, it's more southern regions, or for example, Western regions, they not very involved in the mainstream activism, or, just in some grassroots initiatives, because they just do not, cannot read materials, texts about feminism or about, I don't know, some organizations who can help them. So that is why we have such a disbalance when we try to portray LGBT society in general. So yes, we have issues of lesbophobia, homophobia, transphobia in Kazakhstan. And For example, as a grassroots feminist initiative, we try to monitor and advocate our rights through, for example, alternative reports, which we prepare every year, and we try to present them ourselves. So we speak for ourselves, for our community, because when you give the, possibility to present information about LGBTQ or LGBT society in general, sometimes this picture is very narrowed. So it's good when people from society themselves could speak out loud. Because our topic today is police violence, I will just touch upon some, maybe some issues. So for example, in Kazakhstan, we had one president for 25 years. And actually, I was born in the regime of one president. Now I'm 37, just imagine from the 0 to 37. I was under USSR a little bit, and then I'm just was under one president regime. And so I'm a generation, a president generation who was under one person power. And actually now we have another president to whom the power was just, how to say, given. It was not a referendum process. It was not very transparent process. And we actually do not feel any change. So our second president, he promised more, transferable, transparent processes in everything, elections, in protesting, in right for peaceful assemblies and meetings. But what we can see in Kazakhstan, the regime is do not change inside. So we see how police brutally grab people on peaceful meetings. For example, the meetings of mothers of many children. So they just come to the ministry, raise their very modest banners, sometimes just with the pictures that they want some help from the government, and police come. And now, because of the situation of COVID, they wear, they look like doctors, but they anyway, they use the same brutality. They grab everybody. Sometimes they arrest even children. Sometimes they arrest people who just parked somewhere near the protest, or they grab everybody who was just close to the territory. So they do not actually recognize who are protesters. If you somehow happened to be near the meeting, for example, you were enjoying fresh air, or you were listening to the birds, it doesn't matter, they will grab you. And if you in that case, not just passing by a person, if you're an activist and you try to be loud, shouting the slogan and saying, I want to have a right for peaceful assembly, for example, which is now is a very actual topic in Kazakhstan, you will be grabbed immediately. They even try to take you in a very humiliating way. They take you as you are an, not live object. For example, they take you for your legs, they take your hands. You look very ridiculous, and all your slogans, all what you did before, look like a comedy or something. And I think this is a special method to show that protesters, they're just, some marginal people. They don't know what they want, and we grab them because they are just somehow crazy. And all protesters look like that because they just grab everybody and take to the buses. So, for example, on 6th of June, police arrested one of the prominent civil activists, Asya Tulesova. And yes, Asya Tulesova, she's on here on this picture. And we presented our solidarity and sisterhood with her. She was raising ecological, civil issues. And for now, she's trying to say that everybody should have a right for peaceful meeting in Kazakhstan. Because she, I also would like to say that I was arrested in 2014, and also I was arrested in 2019. And there were different articles for of the code which they tried to use for me. So in first case, because I was loud, they decided that I'm an organizer. And they actually even tried to, they grabbed me on my neck. They tried to take my phone because I was recording a video. It was very brutal. It was very, how to say, it was very emotional moment. And I was very emotional at that time. And I was shouting on them that they do not have right to take people like that, because some of the people, they are old people. You could just easily break their bone, or, you know, children. Why are you taking the children? How they are they criminal just for coming or passing by? And also because you shout, police think, oh, of course she's organizer. And they taking camera, they look at you and they grab you. I was shouting at them, and because I was so emotional, for the next day, social media and media themselves tried to discuss, oh, but this woman, or she's not a woman because of my headdress. They will discuss my gender. They were discussing that I was too emotional. So Asya in this year also was discussed on the topic of emotionality, of emotions, because she were protecting people who were grabbed into the bus, and she just, you know, did like that, and the cap of the policeman fell down to the floor, to the ground. And this was how to say, the action of Asya was interpreted as violence to the police. So I just want to show you how extreme ridicularity or extreme interpretation you could receive just because you don't want to be in that position when everybody grab you as, I'm sorry, as something that even not alive. I even don't want to say animal because I really expect animal, and I never even compare police with animal, because animals are higher than these people who just doing the same thing to everybody and do not even recognize who is who, why they are here, not listen to the slogan and so on. So Asya for now is under arrest in the, how to say, in the special facility. It was not, it is not rightful. So the lawyer said that it is a violation. She should not be kept in the building. She should be now on the freedom. She should be at home, for example, till the verdict. So, and I would like to say that the strategy of working with the police in Kazakhstan is very difficult, because they look like just the soldiers who are doing the order, who are following just the order. They do not speak, they just grab you and brutally, physically, and they do not speak, they do not comment. They take you to the police station and then they write the protocol. Why you were here, they're showing you recordings of yourself and saying, oh, see, this is you, we recognized you. Yes, of course, because you have a phone, your camera, you have everything. Of course it is me. Whom else are you trying to show? Of course it is me. So working with the police is very difficult, because actually we don't have that connection or channel how to approach to them, because our Ministry of Internal Affairs is not look like they are not communicating with people. And the image of police now in Kazakhstan are very worse. People do not believe them. People do not respect them. And I would like to say the situation is worsening with many years, decades. People, when you say a policeman, for example, we don't have policewomen, they are all secretaries, unfortunately. So when you say policeman, it means something very, very, I don't know, you know, when you feel something bad in your taste or your tongue is not working anymore, when you say just word a policeman in Kazakhstan. And I would like to shame them publicly for today, using this platform, that this is not a dignity work for you, dear policeman. How you do your work is not the work you should be proud of. And I think, of course, the issues, we have similar issues. But if you would like to ask, what about the protest that could be regarding to, you know, Black Lives Matter? In Kazakhstan, this issue is not raising too much because I think people in Kazakhstan still deciding what are our identity. Are they Kazakh or we Kazakhstanis? Are we, are we, I don't know. So the identity itself of Kazakh people or people who speak in just only in Russian, not in Kazakh, but they are also Kazakhstanis, are still in the, in the discussion. People don't know how to react to that events because they say, yes, but we have, I will even not cite their words, but they say, yes, but I have to think about my nationality. I don't know to whom I belong and everything and so on. But we feminists, we of course support and we are try to show solidarity with Black Lives Matter. And of course, all these actions that now happening in USA, very, very shocking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zana, for
Thank you.
sharing this with us. Very, very powerful and touching. Thank you, really.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, we're still good on time, and we'll pass on with. You cannot hear me, right? Yeah, now you can hear me. So yeah, I don't know if you heard, but I was just saying that I was talking all by myself from my kitchen, I think. So I was just saying thank you, and now we are going to welcome Celia from the collective Bledarte. Thank you, Zana. Thank you very much for your intervention. Very powerful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It was very, very interesting, and it's a new strength for your fight. What we are about to
now. Well, same. I just I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit more about the collective Bledarte, because as you said in the beginning, I learned about the collective. I mean, a few years ago, I think, when you started the festival, and then discovered the work you were doing against police violence, and also taking the testimony, etc., of a victim of police brutality. And maybe I could ask, before you start, Sylvia, to just show the video, if that's something doable. Sylvia?
Si vous saviez ce que ça fait de devoir vivre tout ça, les gens ne naissent pas mauvais. Ils le deviennent. On accepte cette haine. On la respire. On vit avec. Y'en a marre d'apprendre la mort d'un tel ou d'un tel à la télé par ceux qui sont censés nous protéger. C'est plus des papures et des mœurs. Toutes ces enfants n'ont pas de mœurs, sont que les figures de l'horreur. De l'horreur, ouais. Soi-disant gardiens de la paix, mais elles aussi ils l'ont tué. Ils veulent tous qu'on les respecte, mais nous indiquent le contraire. Ce jour est pas près d'arriver, pas tant qu'ils tueront nos frères. Nos frères, ouais. C'est devenu une banalité dans ce monde, une modalité de voir des proches morts ou dans un lit à l'idée. On devrait leur rappeler que la vie n'est pas un film, mais à cause d'une putain de triste réalité. J'évacue ma peine comme je peux dans la musique. Comme Marine Le Pen, mon déracisme d'amnésique. Veulent la paix, c'est pas logique, bande hypocrite. Elle aura lieu que quand nos frères seront en vie pour leur 18. Je veux plus voir de frères décédés, je veux plus voir de larmes couler. Je veux voir la paix se réinstaller. Ouais, ça fait bien trop mal de voir des proches partir à cause de soi-disant flics qui font mal leur travail. Je veux plus voir de frères décédés, je veux plus voir de larmes couler. Je veux voir la paix se réinstaller. Ouais, ça fait bien trop mal de voir des proches partir à cause de soi-disant flics qui font mal leur travail. J'ai mal à la vie, c'est pas que dans ce pays. En France, en Belgique, ces événements arrivent. Non, là c'est trop pour moi. Essaye de faire ton deuil, mais après quelques mois, t'entends l'annonce d'un nouveau cercueil. Moi, ils m'ont enlevé un de mes frères, quelqu'un qui à mes yeux était cher. Ouais, de haine, moi je débordais, maintenant je laisse Allah s'occuper du reste. Donc je me contente d'enfuir toutes ces tristesses. Et je prie toute la nuit jusqu'à ce que justice soit faite. Sabrina, Maota, Suleiman, Wassim, Semira, Adil,
Merci, Célia. Alors, Célia, first I wanted to say, I should have make a trigger warning before, and I should apologize for that. Those were a bit sensitive. Yeah, and yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, to put it in context, since the death of Adil 2 months ago, rest in peace, we decided to do a call all over Brussels and to let people send us videos, music, drawings, poems, like whatever the form they want to get testimony about the police brutality in Brussels. This is the last, and every Sunday since this, we put on our IGTV a video of with the 1, 2, or 3 testimony we received. This one is a song that a rapper who were close to Mehdi, who has been killed by the police last summer in Brussels in August. He did this music just after the death of Adil, and it's a really, like, I don't know if you understand French, but it's a really emotional song where he's asking why he has to lose so many brothers and people in the hand of the police. And the video is just, I think, 1 week after the death of Adil, so still this summer in Brussels. This young man who is immobilized by the police is a black young man who was smoking a cigarette during the pandemic in front of his own house. And suddenly just a few police officer comes and try to have identity control, and he just ask why, because he's only smoking a cigarette in front of his place, and he's ending on the floor, and they even like took a lot of his dreadlocks out of his head, so it was very violent. And the woman that we see around him trying to collect his stuff is his sister, who's just like looking by the window and sees his brother on the floor. So yeah, it's and every week we receive really a lot of testimony, yeah, from people. And what can I say?
Yeah, why did you decide to work on this specific topic? Because maybe you want to talk about the beginning of the Bledarte.
Yeah. But all of this is started because we are a few women, and that we start to have meetings together. So 3 years ago, just to have, like, we didn't have any, or not all of us had a really activist background and all the term and the theory about what is misogyny or even sexism, homophobia and all those stuff. But we were all very connected to the art. We all went through art schools and or work with artists, and we are all not white, and we wanted to find a place to just like share our experiences. It was at the beginning a lot of cries and yeah, just a safe space that we created, not really regularly. It was just like, yeah, an escape. And we decided to, we were also super annoyed by the fact that everything, I hate to use this word, but urban or like everything around Black and Arabic people from the suburbs started to be very, very trendy. And everything were organized by white people and were then very cliche and not exactly the form and the experiences and the thing that we knew and that we knew were also a reality. Like we have Black and Arabic friends doing electronic music and doing I don't know, like a lot of stuff that is outside of hip hop and crime and stuff like this. So we really wanted to show it to the people. So that's how we wanted to do this festival. And we are very also I think we also really wanted to create a space that where our family can also come and bond with us. Like we always have, well, I'm not from Belgium, but from Switzerland, but my sister, they are all from Belgium, and they always have their moms and parents involved in our events. And also our brother, cousin, stuff like this. And 2 members of the collective are working in, I don't know how you say that in English, but those center for the youth in the neighborhood.
Yeah, youth center.
Youth center, yes. So yeah, they are street educator and stuff like this. So yeah, we were really like, we felt that the the point of view that we are experiencing are really not special. Like it's really common, but still yet it's not showcased in Belgium. So we really wanted to create a space like this. And also, yeah, I wanted to say we are pro-choice, so we also have a lot of women like wearing scarves that working with us, and also sex worker, and also queer people. Part of us are queer also, so yeah, for us it's really like normal that, and we really believe that it's possible to mix all those people, and finally we did it many times, so we are sure it's possible. And yeah, it's very it's a relief, and it's also it's a relief to be able to create spaces like this. And yeah, I think that more and more the people comes and also feel free to express themselves, because yeah, yeah.
The idea of putting together all that is, as you say, to so you say broadcast, or to show at least how things are going on, and on the one hand to show that yes, there are some colored, let's say, people who can make music, etc., and have this party with family and being, and I like the fact that you say, and that's not everything that is Black and Arab is related to crime, on one hand. That you say that on one hand, and then on the other hand you say that also having a showing what is happening in this specific police brutality. And what do you do with that? Do you work with are this material help for instance, if the family, for instance, would like to sue someone? Do you work with the lawyers, or
but we are very we are not professional, so we also know that there is always like a work has always been done in Brussels, and we don't want to erase. In contrary, we are very always looking and try to reach people that already done work, and try to connect it with the for example, Justice for Mehdi. It's actually the Mehdi family that because of the circumstance became activists. And yeah, we always try to, because we are very close to them and we are working a lot with the Mehdi family. We try to connect them with a lot of people. We always like, we try to go the most possible talks, to yeah, like event like this one, to really like take notes, take contacts, and reach them. So yes, we really try to, like, we believe that the fight is worth to be done. So we try to connect the people. We also try to, for example, our first festival. So we were very, very like young in this game, I want to say, and we did this round table about police brutality, and the two girls that are very close to young men from some, let's say, popular neighborhood of Brussels, they really try to bring them to the conversation, and even if I think they were like 5 or maybe 7, but it was the first time that they really heard that no, it's not normal that you've been slapped every day by a police officer in your neighborhood. It's not normal, and it has to stop, and you have to teach to tell it to your friends and blah blah blah. And it was very, because they are in contact with us, but they see that we are young, etc., etc. But to see that there is a Black woman and Arabic men that have been to the same experiences younger, that telling in the microphone that it's not normal was, I think, it's when we feel that we have done something.
Thank you, Celia. Really, thank you for sharing that with us. Sorry, and yeah, you're doing a hell of a job, actually, I have to say. Yeah, it's very important, and yeah, thank you for sharing this with us. We will share also the Instagram. Can you just remind us, people can just send you the info all the time, and when do you put it on Instagram? Which day?
Every Sunday at 8. Well, last week with the very intense week, we put it at 10, but every Sunday at 8 we put a new testimony.
Okay, super. We'll make sure to spread it around, and yeah, keep up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's continue. Yes, now we will continue with Bledarte Miram. Oh, yeah. Yes, you have to put your mic. Tu dois mettre ton micro, Pierrette. Pardon, sorry. Pour qu'on puisse t'entendre. Alors,
Oui.
Ça va?
Voilà.
Voilà.
Oui.
Voilà. Alors, je regarde le temps. Ça va, on est bon. Je vais te poser ma question, puis je vais la dire en anglais pour les autres, et puis ensuite Sylvia fera la traduction. Mais juste aussi, donc là tout à l'heure, tu as présenté les Divines, l'organisation pour laquelle tu travailles et dont tu es la présidente. Et en fait, ce que je voulais te demander, parce que quand on a un petit peu discuté avant le call, tu m'as parlé de la manif, notamment en soutien à la famille d'Adama Traoré, et du travail que vous faites aussi par rapport aux violences policières. Et donc voilà, je vais te demander simplement de nous parler un peu de ça. So, avant, je vais juste traduire. I asked Pierrette a question about the protest that will happen next this Saturday, I think. C'est ce samedi, hein, la manif.
Oui, la prochaine.
This Saturday in Paris, in support to the family of Adama Traoré, who was a black man who got killed by the police. And it's been like many years now that they're fighting to get justice. So Pierrette will talk about that. And voilà, peut-être aussi nous dire pourquoi est-ce que pour vous, voilà, c'est important de parler de violences policières dans un mouvement comme les Divines qui travaillent. Voilà. Je te laisse la parole.
Alors, nous soutenons la sœur de la victime. Est-ce que, Yuri, tu me traduis? Oui.
Yep, we support the sister of the victim.
Oui, son frère a été tué il y a 2 ans par les gendarmes dû à une technique de police très, très agressive et très violente.
The brother was, her brother was killed by the police using a technique of blocking the person, which is very, very dangerous.
Sa sœur demande justice depuis 4 ans maintenant.
And the sister is asking for justice for 4 years now.
Sa sœur Assa Traoré veut rassembler toutes les dénonciations du racisme, notamment.
And the sister Assa Traoré, she's also she's willing to collect all the police brutality actions in this moment.
C'est tout naturellement qu'on se rallie à sa cause et qu'on mobilise pour elle aussi la cause.
And for us, it's totally normal that we are mobilized to support her and to support this cause.
Nous avons pu la rencontrer plusieurs fois et elle soutient aussi notre cause.
And we met several times with her, and she's also supporting our own cause, the Divine fight.
Oui, nous lui avons remis le logo de l'association en badge qu'elle a porté pendant des meetings.
So we gave her the logo, the badge, the pins of our NGO, our association, and she put it and she wore it in different meetings that she was having.
Et donc samedi prochain a réuni un nouvel rassemblement après avoir dénoncé comment elle a été reçue par le gouvernement qui.
So she's calling for a new meeting, a new demonstration this Saturday, after like to speak out about the way she was received by the government.
Oui, ça sera le deuxième la semaine dernière, il y a eu déjà un rassemblement qui a rassemblé 20 000 personnes en moins d'une semaine.
There were another demonstration last week with more than 20,000 people, and this will be the second one.
C'est non seulement à Paris, mais dans toute la France.
And it's not only in Paris, but it's all over France.
Cela fait écho à George Floyd qui a été tué en Amérique.
This is of course linked with the George Floyd assassination by the police.
Et ce rassemblement à Place de la République va mobiliser autant de personnes, je pense, que samedi dernier.
And I really think that this time, so this Saturday, the demonstration will be very big, and there will be as many people as the other time, at least.
L'association a réuni un petit groupe de personnes samedi dernier, et nous mobilisons aussi pour le rassemblement samedi prochain.
Our work at the Divine, we have put some people together and mobilized people in our networks, and we will go to demonstrate this Saturday with them.
Après, l'ensemble de l'association est sensibilisé à travers la page Facebook. Nous relayons un direct live de la manifestation.
And the work that we are also doing is to make an independent live direct from the demonstration from our Facebook page. So we are filming and putting images, live streaming images on Facebook in our Facebook page.
Cela permet aux personnes qui ne peuvent pas se déplacer d'être avec nous et ils nous en remercient.
This is made for allow people who will not be able to join the demonstration to be anyhow with us at the demonstration.
Ça donne force qu'on n'est pas tout seul.
And it gives strength because we are not alone.
Merci beaucoup, Pierrette. Je ne sais pas si tu voudrais ajouter quelque chose, mais c'est voilà. Du coup, aussi on est.
Oui, c'est vraiment cette manifestation est vraiment importante parce que c'est le rapport, de créer un rapport de force avec ça crée un rapport de force avec le gouvernement et les personnes de la justice qui doivent mettre en audition les gendarmes.
And wait. This demonstration is very, very important because it will create a power relationship between, of course, the institution, but also the judges who are still judging the assassination of Adama Traoré.
À la suite de la dernière manifestation, deux personnes vont être auditionnées pour cette affaire.
So right after the demonstration, there will be the hearings of two witnesses for this trial, so for this inquiry, and so it's important to demonstrate also for them.
Ouais. Et nous, on a vraiment suivi pas mal les... sorry. Enfin bon, on a suivi pas mal, j'en perds le fil, on a suivi pas mal les événements ici en Belgique aussi. I was saying that we also follow very much events that happen in Paris, like the sad events that happen in Paris, and also of course the Adama Traoré cases. Because we are slowly running out of time, because on a juste plus beaucoup de temps, Pierrette, I just want to remind you that this is the first part of our two-part session. Donc, il y aura une deuxième partie, une deuxième réunion où on pourra, un deuxième moment de discussion où on pourra reprendre le temps pour discuter et peut-être effectivement focaliser un peu plus sur la France ou la Belgique, enfin en tout cas parce qu'il y a des choses qui sont, même si elles sont différentes, qui se répondent en écho. So I was just saying that because we are slowly running out of time, merci beaucoup Pierrette, merci. Because we are slowly running out of time, I just want to remind you that this is like a first part of the two meetings that we're gonna have, and maybe next time we also can take more time to focus on the situation in France and in Belgium, even if it's different, but there are some similarities. And by saying that, I would like to give the last words to Lepa, and to wrap up this.
I can speak Latin next time also, it's no problem.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, I'm really fascinated. I'm so happy to hear all these different stories. You know, it's so important, each one. Maybe at the end, I just want to say that, you know, we during the regime time, we feminists and lesbian activists and anti-war activists, we have clearly learned something which is obviously present in every of these testimonies, that the police is not there to protect citizens, but to protect the state or the regime or the government, depending how you call it, you know. And I mean, for us, it was easier because the regime was so violent and aggressive in the war, region, you know, in the whole region. So it was clear. So that's one thing that we learned. We don't put this in discussion. And then the second thing that we learned, which is also so clear here, that the police as an institution, like any other institution, is racist, misogynic, lesbophobic, homophobic, and that's it. You know, it's like, it's better to speak that it's like that, so that we don't sometimes, you know, some lesbian maybe still think, you know, that the police will help them, you know, I mean, because police is there to help, but you know, we try to speak out, you know, all these, you know, that it's really we cannot trust the police. So all the lesbians that I talk these days, also what is the first thing that they will say about police is like, we don't trust police. So it's clear. I think it's everywhere just the same. I will just want to add on something that Mira said about healing, you know, because I'm professionally a counselor, and you know, emotion is really my how to see trauma that you know, I'm trying to follow some of my colleagues from Latin America who have frame the healing in the political context, which means the oppression of women and oppression of lesbians and oppression of Black people is producing enormous kinds of traumas for all of us. And therefore, healing is an act of subversion toward this oppression. That's one way of looking, you know. So, so healing and collective healing, you know, as a part of the groups, the movement, and the healing should be really part of every social movement, because the oppression. I mean, without any doubt, undoubtedly produce traumas in all of us, of whatever oppression we are. I mean, it's just produced traumas, and therefore healing it should be part of the movement. But also the healing is, some women say that the healing is justice. You know, that's what I want as a justice, you know, that to feel happy, you know. Or in Latin America, they have this slogan, lesbians and feminists, they say, you know, if I'm happy, that's my revenge, which is really just adding on what Mira says, organize, heal, and celebrate. I really like this, this program that you have.
Thank you.
Finish with that.
Thank you, Lepa. And see, Nira, these are like the word we can just wrap up this this discussion. I'm very and truly, and I'm talking on behalf of the whole team of ELC, because I know they all were working for this meeting. Very happy, very proud of y'all, and for you to be here. We're gonna have to continue this conversation because we need each other. We need the forces, the words, like of all of us, and to share in order to keep going. We need to organize, as Nira says, and this, even if this session was quite difficult and yeah, a bit heavy, and yeah. There's a lot of trigger warning we should have put in before, but still, it's in a certain way, it's a way to, yeah, to heal also, because we talk about what we do and how we organize, and to celebrate our, yeah, lesbian genius. Actually, you are all really badass lesbian genius. So thank you very much. Thank you, Celia. Thank you, Zanar. Thank you, Bledarte. Thank you, Flavia. Thank you, Lepa. Thank you, Nira. Thank you very much. And thank you, Sylvia, for the work. We will share all the information of the organization online. And yeah, we catch up, and I'll see you very soon.
Take care.
You take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.